Mr. Lyon, would you please take us through a roll call?
So this is for the Architectural Review Committee meeting of January 5th, 2026. Member Castro.
Here.
Member Thompson.
Here.
Member Elliott.
Here.
Member Roseman.
Here.
Member Thomas. Present. And Vice Chair and tonight Chair John Walsh.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a notice to, I'm sorry, could you give us please a report on the posting of the agenda?
Agenda is made available for public access at the City Hall exterior bulletin board on the website of the Council Chamber and Planning Services counter at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, December 31st, 2025.
Might there be a motion to accept the posting of the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Thomas.
Thomas moves. I'll second it.
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Now, time for public comment. Do we have any?
Go ahead and read that section out of the public comment.
Okay. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Architectural Review Committee on the consent calendar and other agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Although the Architectural Review Committee values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes assigned for each speaker. Do we have anyone in the audience for general comments?
Nobody online.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Do we have anything to be moved to the consent calendar?
The only thing on your consent calendar tonight is the approval of the minutes from December 1st.
Thank you. Which takes us to, are there any comments or corrections being offered up on that?
I move to approve.
May I?
Sorry.
Not to interrupt, but there is one. And that is pertaining to the signage at the theater. And I think something that was touched on, but I didn't find it in the minutes, was the potential for a setting of a precedent with respect to the number of signs. Now, I don't know if that is purview or not of architectural review, but it just seems like something that should be flagged and addressed.
There was a concern by the ARC about the setting a precedent for the number of signs at a particular site.
Correct, because this exceeds what would normally be allowed, and it just occurred to us, and it was discussed that it would open the door for any merchant on Palm Canyon within that sign ordinance to request that.
You can add that to the.
Yes, thank you.
I move to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining since I was not here.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Thompson.
We go back.
There's a Thomas. We're
Apologies.
interchangeable.
I wasn't here either.
Okay, approval of minutes recommendation. We'll move to number 2, unfinished business. Item A, a request by Toll Brothers, Inc. for a major architectural application for the approval of 119 new single-family residential lots, planning areas 5A, 7A, within the Ascena development located at 1000 North Gene Autry Trail. Zoning is PDD 231, case number PDD 2025 0002 50666, PD 231. Staff on that is Glenn Malacker. Thank you.
On December 1st last year, series of recommendations on Toll Brothers to come back. When We split it out into architecture and landscaping. Sure. That the garage doors be similar design and height. Consider elimination of the mid-century elevation or redesign. Lower the garage openings and make the head height as low as possible. Eliminate the top cap on the modernistic elevation. Provide a well-developed corner window, one that opens and one that has a lower sill. Deeper solar overhangs at least 36 inches. Scale of materials as vertical elements not more than 6 inches. And looking at the landscape plans, you wanted more open space with discipline, less variety of species, greater plant density, uniform common space, and blocks and borders and clusters. Field study plants along Genoa Tree Trail. So the project that's here before you, there was a large packet that was sent to the ARC. Also, there was a supplementary comparison with before you today, which is 4 sheets showing the different types of elevations. So they eliminated all of the mid-century plans elevation. That was an option based upon the ARC recommendations, either eliminate it or change it. They reduced all the building heights, replaced the garage doors so they're similar in design, height, materials, reduced header heights and side windows in the front bedrooms, contemporary modernistic elevations. They eliminated the top cap, increased the windows on the first floor by 6 inches to 5'6", added a stucco canopy above, and then raised the stucco canopy above the garage doors to line up with the canopy above. And then in the staff report and their memo to the ARC, there are specific changes for each of the plans. And I didn't list them here because they're listed in the staff report. We can look at them when we look at each one of those. When it comes to landscaping, they provide additional clustering of boulders. The common area landscaping, they reduce the variety of plant species, larger plant massings and groupings to unify the design. Along Genoa Tree Trail, existing trees and shrubs to remain are shown on a plan, and we'll look for those. Where space allowed, you wanted trees moved close to the sidewalk to provide shading and increase the plant density. So just to remind everyone where we are, PA 5, Planning Area 5 is 83 lots in the City Development. Genoa Tree Trail is on the left of the slide, the street that runs north to south. And then PA 7 is 36 lots, and this is farther down the entry to the main entry where the circle is in a senior development. So this was the previous streetscape, and I tried to follow former Chair O'Donnell's visual representation of what is previous and what is new. So each one of these is going to have a previous and a new so that we can compare. So this was the previous. You'll see that they had the mid-century, other plans, other design types. And this is the new revised landscape plan, or I'm sorry, revised streetscape plan, eliminating the 2-story mid-century and then adding these other 3. International, contemporary, international, and then another story. So in the supplemental information that was given to you today, this is, we'll go through each one of these. So each sheet is a different design or a different plan type. This is the Darien, which is 1 story. So on the left is the original design, and on the right is the current. So you'll notice that the cap on the bottom left has been removed. The headers above the garage have been lowered, and there are other elements that have been to cohesively tie these together, and you'll see the garage doors are all similar. And I won't go into all the details. Leah from Toll Brothers is here, and I'm sure they'll be able to describe it better than I will. So this is just a series of the revised plans, and these are in your large packet that you have. Plan 1, modernistic. And then I included the side elevations for each of these designs for mainly to comment on. This is the Judd, the other 1 story. You'll see on the left is the original, on the right is the revised plans based upon your recommendations. Closer up images of them. See that they have added the sign windows and then the elements above the window itself, eliminated the cap, lowered the height above the garage, and the side elevations. This is the Mare, which is the 2-story. Once again, the left is the original and the right is revised. And then the views of these design types. And then the last one, which is the Vincent, the other 2-story. Left is original, right is the revised. So you notice that on the bottom right, there's now a solar shade above the large window and the garage height is lower. That's the 3D images and then the side image. The color scheme has not changed. This is what you were reviewed at the last meeting. So there are a total of 12 different color schemes. Floor plans haven't changed. This is what you looked at the last meeting. Story and 2-story. Then on the landscaping, I put this picture in here because there's a lot of discussion about this at the last meeting. This is along Geometry Trail showing the current conditions of what is out there. Some existing trees that they would like to save and then other plants that are just to be replaced. Once again, I'm showing previous landscape plans for comparison purposes. This is what we looked at before, and this is the revised. You notice that there's denser plants. The trees are clustered. This is the previous landscape plan farther up Geometry Trail, and this is the revised center plan. You'll notice that there are smaller shrubs that are grouped together. And that sort of lime green is existing shrubs that will stay, which wasn't shown in the previous plan. So they did go out and survey, determine what they want to save and what they want to replace. Also is further up Geometry Trail. This is the previous plan. This is revised. So you kind of notice up at the top left, some of the groupings are more of them. On, there are 9 lots inside the development that are HOA. This is the previous plan. Notice along Juno Way, this is revised. They've added multiple groupings of other shrubs and plants. On Hawthorne, sorry, upside down. Hawthorne, this is the previous, and this is the revised. Once again, adding additional plants. Back, you can see there's more plants along the left entry to Trinity Way. And then on Nova Street, this is the previous and revised. There was a lot of discussion about this section of this. What is this, lot H? It's the previous. There was pistachio trees are still there. The previous landscape plan for the fronts of the houses. I'm not seeing much change, but I'm sure Mr. Dosey will be able to explain that to us. The hardscape is the same. The lighting is the same as what you previously saw. So our recommendation is approval, and I want to say that based upon City Council policy and California SB 330, no legislative body, including City Council, PC, or ARC, shall hold no more than 5 meetings on any case. Tonight's meeting is the 4th meeting to discuss this, so the ARC needs to make a decision tonight, and that decision is approval with conditions, or denial. So that concludes my report. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Malacker. Do we have any questions for staff on the staff report?
Glenn?
Yep.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. This is the fourth meeting?
Yes, there was a planning commission meeting, a subcommittee meeting, the meeting that we held in December, and this is the
And there's a limit of 5?
limit of 5. And if, say, the ARC denies the project tonight, then the 5th meeting would be an appeal. So this preserves their a right to appeal.
A couple questions, Glenn. To whom would it first be appealed in meeting number 5?
It would go back to the planning commission.
Okay. And if it were to be rejected, there's a time, a window of time, correct, that has to be absorbed before it can come back in?
Well, if they need, someone would need to file an appeal within 15 days. If they didn't file an appeal and it was denied, the project would just fail.
When could they come back again with something different?
I think there is a time frame where they need to
Right.
have a cooling off period, I guess.
Well, and
Is there-
the city is also required by ordinance to schedule that appeal hearing within a certain period of time from the date of receipt of the appeal. I believe it's something like 45 days, like that. So if someone were to appeal a decision tonight, they have 15 days from tonight's hearing to file that appeal. Once the city receives an appeal, we have to get that scheduled for a consideration by the planning commission. 45 days.
Okay.
Now, if the applicant during that time agrees to a longer period, then we can hold longer to say they do decide they want to do some kind of redesign.
Right.
They could request and confer with the city requesting a longer period. But we're obligated by ordinance to get them scheduled for the appeal hearing in a certain period of time.
Got it, okay. Are there any other questions of staff? If not, we will hear the applicant's presentation. Who do we have from the applicant this evening?
Other than the project manager, and I'm going to invite my architect and landscape architect. to join us.
If we could get,
Thank you.
if we could get their names also, please.
Bill Hesselhoff, architect. Tom Ghosty, landscape architect.
Yes, like I said, my name is Lammy, and I'm the project manager for Rutgers. I think Glenn did a great job at describing the project and the changes. I think that one of the big things that did come up last week was for us to push this overall height and proportions. And I will say that we were able to reduce the garage trusses from 24 inches to 14 inches. Since they are not conditioned space, we were allowed to go down to that depth, since no mechanical equipment is being run through that spaces. And then for the single story, we also managed to lower the front bedroom, which is that second volume you see in the front on the single story, a little bit by redesigning the way that we're introducing mechanical equipment in the room. So that volume was also able to lower. While you're still seeing the garage and the bedroom at the same height, for example, with that plan 1, is because both of them got lower. So I think that that's a big thing that we were able to accomplish during this revision. And on top of that is really introducing a lot more shading elements, especially in front and the bigger windows of the house. I think that's, 2 points I wanted to touch on. I think that Doug can probably elaborate a little bit more on the architecture and then tell them.
Sure, so we spent some time on some of the major design elements, the horizontal members, trying to get some more consistency. And how those relate. So if you look, for example, the plan 1B, the Monterist, we were able to kind of create a horizontal element that goes right side all the way across the garage door to the entry and then got into the wall nice and clean. We also changed that. Windows there at the bedroom. So we put that on, you can see it also on 4B Street. That kind of due to the location. We also simplified the top detail repair that off what we call the hat. Pulled that down, so we don't have that kind of that element that nobody seemed to really like. Put that on, create consistency in garage doors overall. We did add a lot of shade elements in the rear and in the front. We also adjusted some of the window doors. There's just 4B horizontal window. I'm over so we provided a little bit more variety in second floor windows. Rest the corner windows again. Corner windows, we added some depth to the windows to kind of enhance that. Outside also. Color blocking. Provided color blocking virtually throughout the project. You can see it's on the front, so I think that's on the side. We have some score lines, which kind of help define some time studying that. So there's quite a few little nuances that we kind of, from our last meeting, we tried to organize those in a little bit more consistent pattern.
I guess we'll start with the streetscapes. So what we did is, as Glenn had mentioned, we addressed all of the great comments while maintaining the integrity, put them away from our early meetings with them. And that really pertains to some of the varieties. So we see some different trees, some on the respect side as well as the and then we went through, and as you can see from the different slides, increased densities. And we used the ground covers, the green carpet, fun to try to tie everything together. So we not only increased it in the common areas, but also at the entries. So there's a common theme through that. As far as the shade trees, along Gene Autry, ideally we'd be placing them on the opposite side of the sidewalk from the western sun. That's because of Caltrans right away and setbacks required by highway. We had to use the existing locations that were previously approved. The whole design is built on, there's a number of olive trees that are out there now. We're keeping those, the ones that are healthy, thriving. Some will be relocated. Maintain the pattern that we've designed, working with how it moves in and out and change of block material. And so that, and then where we had room without, trying to interfere with the sidewalk, with the uplifting and so forth, we pushed the trees out as far as we could. And you can see at the entrance, we wanted to maintain the accent plant pattern to that, but as we increase the density. And again, keeping it a simplish pattern. As a boulders, there was one, the areas where we did have the boulders was mostly on there was a old sheet in there versus the new one, so we didn't create more clutter. Then where we did have boulders, probably. Yeah. Anyway, where we did have boulders, we created more massive groupings of those on the updated sheets. It might scroll through on some of these. Some of them are hidden by the canopy trees, and again, increase some of the density with the mass and simplicity on the street. Happy to answer any questions.
Since we addressed the century
Yes, of course. So I think during the last meeting, we were all trying to have a discussion on how to get feedback from everyone on how we could improve it. We kind of tried our best and were able to create a mid-century elevation style, but with those tight lots, it is quite hard to have a great mid-century design when you're working with a 45-foot wide lot. And between everyone, every member and us, it was really hard to come up with great guidance, the way that you guys were able to provide us guidance for international and modernistic. And we kind of all came to a conclusion that that's something that if we weren't able to execute properly, we just didn't want to provide that for the project and decided to go to styles. We still have 4 plans, 2 elevation styles. Each elevation style has 3 color schemes, so it provides a lot of variation in the lots. We're mirroring some of the plans when we look at the plotting plans, so it still provides a lot of variation and throughout the site. So I think that
Questions of the applicant?
Tom, do you know how much turf overall?
On our first schemes, we virtually had no turf, but as requested by the HOA, they did want to have some turf areas to provide like mini parks for the common areas for dogs and so forth. I don't know the exact square footage, but it's minimal for them to improve the standards.
Thank you.
The questions,
Comments?
Anna, please.
Can I comment or?
What, I think if there are questions first.
No.
Okay. I have a few, here. Is there a reason why as, you apply an overhang, shade of some sort, it does not align, it's always a few inches above the window head beneath it. Can you tell us why it doesn't align directly with the head of the window?
Well, I think that's our detail. I think our preference space there versus like I had waterproof.
Okay. I get lost looking at the different models, so just bear with me 1 second. There is a bedroom window at the front. Okay, I'm looking at the Judd plan, 2A. Second from the right. That is a bedroom, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and is there a reason why the glazing is handled like that, which is sort of an asymmetric, so there's some structure integrated there as opposed to a ramble glazing unit? What was your thinking on that?
So you're referencing the plan 2A, the Judd?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, so that, well, with that particular style, the international one represents our education.
That one. Yes.
So centered approach. Allows us to regulate the outside when they fix the windows. Composition is a little bit funky. That's different from the other schools. I mean, these styles, especially what we call mass-based elevation style.
Okay. What, the scoring on the stucco that I'm looking at, or is that block? What?
Tile, the wall tile, wall tile.
Please, yes.
Yes, that's the tile. It's a Arizona tile Italian Pietro.
Okay.
Which was one of the items that did come up last time. So right now this is alternate, that's calling out 6 inches by 24 wall tile, and I believe, member Lance, is the one that brought up that comment. So if you go to any other renderings, that is international. The material, yeah,
Oh,
that one,
that
the
one.
material comes in a 12 by 24 format.
Can you go to the other one?
Thank you. And one of the comments was that, wanted us to look into proportions and looking at a different material application. We looked at it and we really like that material and we weren't really able to find a different material, or that material doesn't come in a smaller format. So something that we were proposing is that we would look to like manually cutting it, and instead of being a 12 height, we would go to 6 inches. That's something that we wanted to propose to you and kind of give you both options to see what you think you would prefer us to go for. But originally the material does come in 12 by 24 and we're proposing 6 by 24 so that you guys can look at both options and see what you might prefer.
So is this proposed, or are you giving us, you're sort of presenting that option?
So I think that we would like to stick with the 12 by 24, but we're proposing that alternative.
Okay.
6 by 24, just to be able to address all comments that came last time and give you guys the opportunity to look at both of our record style and see what are the comments.
Did 2A wrap the corner as well? I couldn't tell from the visual. I can see that this one.
Yeah, so I think that if we look at just the 2D elevation, we're showing side elevation as well. So you will be able to see how far we're wrapping. Or something. Yeah, so, well, I think that you can kind of see it like this. Yeah, right here, you were on it, slide before, so on the left elevation, you can see that it does wrap the corner, and it transition at the volume difference, and then same on the right elevation, you can see that it turns the corner all the way to the entrance, and guys into the entrance.
Also noted on that.
I'm
level,
not seeing
To line up with the.
I'm so sorry. Tell me where is that window wrapping? Where's the side elevation? I'm just not getting it.
So the window wrapping, or
It's the
The corner
tile.
window.
the tile that's wrapping.
It's the tile that's
Tile
wrapping,
that's wrapping.
but
That's
there's
my
the
question.
window wrapping.
yeah,
Right.
so the tile for the international is the one that we're talking about wrapping, but for the modernistic, that's where the window is wrapping the corner.
May I ask a question about the side elevations? I see you have added, or I get, maybe it was there, but canopies here and there. Is there kind of a logic as to where they have been placed? A consistency?
Well, I think, we started with the one wrapping from the front elbow.
Yes.
And then from there, we go to the entry area, on the side entry doors there. Entry, I announced that. And then where it's dash, you can see a dash where we have an option for a slider. Then we can slide on that off and slide a little blanket sheet. That slider. That slider opens up the outdoor cyclical car.
May I ask a question also with the eyebrows? That's what you're talking about, right? So, what was the thinking behind, some of these eyebrows have brackets and some do not, and I really like the ones without the brackets a lot better. Was that just a design, that,
Yeah, we wanted to have a and the bracket. Oh. Brackets.
mhm.
Subtle.
It's also a material difference, so the international. Yes, eyebrow is metal, eyebrow with brackets, and then in the modernistic, it's just stucco.
The other question with the eyebrows is, so on, Vincent, the elevations there. So on contemporary 4B, you've got the eyebrow on the top window, but you didn't do that on the international 4A.
Well, just as differentiated child. We just felt we have to have it on wide. Vertical window mullions. Definitely.
Last question, on one of the renderings that they showed, you stacked the gate or siding, you stacked it, but it's staircased on the front elevations. Just wondering if there's a reason for that. So, if we can go back a little bit. Stop. Okay, so see how the walls on the side are stacked, and then on another image, you have the center columns are staircased, the blocks. So just wondering if, did you ever think about, yeah,
We're having different side yard concrete blocks.
no, so I like the sides that it's installed stacked, right? So it's on one on top of the other. Then if you go back or forward another one. Keep going. Keep going.
Sorry, it's a little slow.
That's okay. That, stop, go back. So see the front facade of that? See how it's staircased and not stacked, the block, whereas the,
Oh, yeah, that's,
yes.
yeah, definitely one that have that pattern for the facade of the yard.
Mm.
That's different than the property fences.
Okay.
The thickness of, so those tile pieces, do they actually have? Or you?
It's a really thick tile that's. Yeah, so it's a material that can. For the house, but also if you're planning it. So we just took that. That's sort of. Everywhere, I mean, the whole elevation. Some of our projects.
You shooting it in dark to match the window trims? Or do you have picked one?
I don't know if I have the extent of that material selection or that sugar selection. I might have some.
Block?
Any further questions of the applicants? Thank you. And that will open it for commission discussion. Anna, would you?
Brackets. I love it without the brackets and I don't think it's necessary. First of all, I loved the redesign altogether. It feels modern, it feels clean, it feels Palm Springs, but like an updated version of it. There's just something about that I love about seeing clean lines, that the brackets are just feeling a bit old school to me. I don't think they need them. I don't know. I don't think it's a interesting enough design to keep it. That's one comment. I do feel like that 4A International needs the eyebrow above that window. That would just be my call. And then I like stacked.
Is that the upper window?
Yeah, the upper window on 4A International. See how the bottom one 4B has it? It's sort of like, I like symmetry, right? So you've got it on the bottom window and then the top window. I think that 4A International should have it on the top window as well. I mean, I love the new garage doors. I think that looks amazing. And I'm just a fan of stacked tile as opposed to staircase. It looks so good on the walls that, I mean, I get that as a design element, but yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Danny?
Actually, I think the redesign overall is much improved. And I I like that you've eliminated the mid-century. I think I love mid-century, but I think it was such a challenge with a 45-foot wide frontage and just the limitation. I think it felt a little forced. And so I'm glad that's eliminated. Just again, overall better proportion, overall lower height. I think the design is a lot more uniform. It's a lot more consistent. The same garage design, I think, just made a great improvement as well. The wall tile, I don't like the 12 by 24 wall. I think, and why I say that is, and similar to what Lance was mentioning at the last meeting, I think that when you have a smaller wall area, it seems to be out of scale. It seems to want a larger wall area to support the 12 by 24. I think that 6 by 24 looks a lot more proportioned and balanced on that wall. So it would be my preference that all of them are 6 by 24. But overall, just much improved design. I think the landscape improvements are also improved as well with the clustering of the sort of lower planting areas. So that's my comments.
Commissioner Nastro. Further?
I'm gonna go against the grain. So I like the metal brackets. I like the lowered overall heights of everything, and I like the 12 by 24 tiles set in an offset. I think it adds interest to it, where if it was just stacked, it'd look boring to me, but that's why there's so many of us here, because we all have our own opinions.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
I'll give a thumbs up to the landscape. I mean, I appreciate all the effort that you did there. I think they paid off. And I think funny those very small changes on the architecture change proportion a lot. And it's working, in my mind, is working a lot better. I do not have an opinion about the brackets versus the non-brackets, but I do like the finer grain of the tile. I would even push for but I think a smaller is going to look less full and more resident. So
Thank you, Commissioner Elliott. Anybody else?
The tile on the front, the smooth tile. Or do you just- Is it, and it's flat, I'm assuming.
I have a few comments and I guess some questions. I'm frustrated with the 5 hearing rule. I think that this, it cuts 2 ways because it puts us in a tough spot. And for all the fact that there have been some improvements, delta differences between what we saw and what we're dealing with today, I think it has a big, long way to go. And I'm looking at inconsistent detailing. The thing about the windows lining up with the score line and the head, that would make me crazy. It would look like a mistake, done by the framer or the stucco guy or something. It's kind of hit and miss in different locations with how things are detailed and proportioned. And then I kind of take a look at 4A International and 4B Contemporary. And I'm probably the only one who still thinks this, but that is terribly top heavy. It just looks oddly disproportionate. And I just think it needs more time, which we don't have. So I would very much like to be more supportive, but it's kind of a problem short of pushing a lot of this off onto staff with lists of things. And that kind of back and forth isn't necessarily particularly productive or fruitful. That,
You know, it seems like more up against the wall here, not being able to ask for another iteration. What would be, what you just said, which what I would characterize as putting your request into the form of. So it depends on where the whole board seems to be leaning in terms of what kind of a motion you guys might make. And then whether or not some of your concerns could be ameliorated by putting them together as conditions. For example, do more to lower the height of the second.
Right.
Whether that's taking the stairs down to 8 feet, I don't know what they are in this particular project, whether it's lowering the parapets further.
sure.
So maybe there's a way of actually blocking per se. But if this was to be done in such a way that you carried that wall up to just above the window head and then it's set back 4 inches surface, that might bring the height down in some way. But my point is,
Yeah.
if you feel that some of these concerns of yours could be brought into a motion in the form of conditions, we could certainly try to vary that.
I could be swimming upstream on that issue. And I will pause if anyone else would like to put together a motion that was a little more sympathetic with what has been the process and where it is today. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let somebody else make a motion if they want to. If not, I will follow your wise guidance.
So I will just say, on the flip side of that, being on the other side of that as a developer that has to go through multiple iterations and multiple
Absolutely.
iterations and multiple iterations where everybody gives you their own personal perspective. It's very costly and it's very time consuming. So I'm very sensitive to the applicant's perspective on this.
Absolutely.
Because it could just be a Chinese, menu. I'm open if something's really a deal breaker to make a recommendation, add it as a condition. But I'm also really, I think the project looks actually very good, and I think the landscape is extraordinary. So, and I missed the original meeting, but I did read the notes, so I can see the changes in the plan.
I follow along with Jackie, and I'm willing to make a motion to approve it, subject to other people's conditions, but I think it looks good to me. And they've been in the business, they've been building these things, they know what they're doing, they've done these in other developments. So my personal preference would be to give them approval with whatever conditions you feel that they need.
Would one of you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the project, subject to John Walsh's conditions.
The value of my life just went down. Yes.
I would suggest, as a friendly amendment, is that fellow board members, if they wish to amend your motion, can make a friendly amendment, which you as the motion maker, seconder can accept.
What he
If I was
said.
sitting here with you and said, well, I want them all to be painted purple. That's a condition. Would you accept that? You would say no.
No.
So that's a dialogue and a process that you all can work through to bring in the concerns of each individual member that concerning this, but they just can't get to a yes vote with these.
Sure.
With these.
Okay.
And so, whether it's John Walsh's conditions or anybody else's, some different opinions about brackets or no brackets, you guys are gonna have to reconcile that. So, you basically made a motion to approve as presented, is that correct?
Correct.
And we have a second from member Thomas, is that correct?
Don't yet, but
Okay.
I'm happy to provide it. I'm happy to provide it. I'm also of the same mindset of Commissioner, formerly Bastian, now
Roseman?
Roseman. I actually like cantilever floats with the brackets as well.
So that would be a matter for the motion maker if he accepts that amendment.
He likes them.
Is there gonna be opportunities for that? I'll give this second.
I think you have any amendments that you wish to make, and then if there's no further discussion, then John will call.
Well, as far as the amendment to remove the brackets, I would have more sympathy with the applicant, and I would like let the board here decide to have no brackets then, if that's the way they feel. It's just a personal preference for me. I think it adds interest to the complex, adds interest to going down the street. But if that's a strong opinion from the other board members, I'm willing to let that be removed.
Fine. I believe we need a second.
I'll second.
There we go.
Thank you, Ms. Wong.
Okay, can I ask a question? How many 2 stories are there in the whole?
Good point.
1/3? Are they, because it might help if they were sort of next to each other.
Shows where the 2 stories are. I know it's hard to see. Right?
I'm sorry.
What's the ceiling height?
I also think,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
What's the ceiling height on the second story?
9.
I also think, one of your concerns was this very like blocky, I know, it's driving you nuts. I think my concern was adding the canopy above that would break it up a bit more, or the eyebrow, that would alleviate that blocky looking structure, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Anna.
Will be
Um,
similar to the.
yeah.
Mr. Lyon, so we need to number these potential amendments.
Yes.
Right.
It looks like from the plan that the 2 stories are never side by side. Oh.
Rarely, maybe. And it, may I add a comment?
Why don't you come up to the
Yeah.
table?
Wait, I can also show you a picture, and the shooter is actually silver, not black.
Oh, it is silver.
Yes.
Or
This
so.
is Nola. So this is a 12x24 tile, and then you see that the shooter is actually silver. So it really blends in
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
that's-
nicer than what I just described a little earlier.
Basically disappears.
It doesn't, it's better.
Yeah. To Mr. Walsh's concern about the second floor, and looking at the second floor in the drawing packet, I see that you've got a 9-foot second floor ceiling. And it still appears in drawings, and maybe this is not catching up with things we passed out today, but you've got a total 3-foot distance from the ceiling of the second floor to the top of the parapet. Is that what your current designs that are showing here are?
It is fairly similar, and that's what I was going to note on the plan 4. So right now in the plan 4, if you look at you can see that one of the volumes is a little higher than the other one on the second story. Yeah. And that was capped from an architectural design so that we're not having a very linear second story. However, if that is a concern of this, we are able to drop down that bigger volume 6 inches to match the lower one. That will make both volumes on the second floor be the same height, but it will give us
And that would have the ceiling height remaining at what?
9 foot.
Okay.
So you can see on the plan 3,
I see
it's
that now.
a straight line across 2 volumes on the second story, and if you go to the plan 4, yeah, you can see that there is difference. Or there should.
Yeah, you can see it.
No, this is, yeah, and the comes from having to have the 24-inch trusses minimum. and then we're adding. We are doing a quarter. Add a couple inches, and then we're looking. I also had a. Height that we can.
You were talking earlier, and you explained the trust convention, trust depth on some of these. Over from 24 to
14.
In the gar-
Able to do that on conditioned spaces, which is just a garage, because we don't have any mechanical equipment running through it. So when you're looking at condition. The truss member itself, it doesn't give you a 20-foot clearance. It only gives you 10 to 12-inch studs plus insulation around it, and that really is restricting us to having 24 minutes.
If you need to do it, you need to do it. There are other ways of doing it. You could certainly soften some ducts in or whatever. I mean, we go through this with height limits. And it just seems as though it looks odd to be so disproportionate. And I'm sorry, keep going back to that. I mean, this thing needs to go down. And if you have to drop in an 8-foot ceiling as opposed to a 9-foot ceiling, that's what I would do to make it look okay.
Yeah, I understand that, and, I'm here speaking on my behalf, but when I look at our companies and our scales and all the 9-foot ceiling, I think that if this is really something that, is going to be a condition, I'm more than willing to look into other options. I can look into other mechanical options, but lowering the ceiling height is something that we're not, wanting to compromise on, unless that's something that.
I have no problem with your lack of compromise on that, but I'm saying it's not working. And I don't care how you do it, but I think that the elevation needs to be fixed.
Is there a way that you can bring the.
So how do you? I think that's a preference of ours. I don't know.
What's the ceiling height on the ground floor?
I think we're at 12. It's
Is this amendment number 1, Mr. Lyon, that we are discussing? Okay, I would like to get the low-hanging fruit taken care of quickly, and then we can move to these more detailed discussions. I would propose that amendment number 1 be the 2 different types of canopies. You've got the middle one with the chains and the other one which is stucco. Is there a direction?
I would suggest using the brackets. And I like the differentiation in material that doesn't bother me at all.
That sounds like amendment number 1. Amendment number 2. My strong feeling is that you've got to align the window head with the bottom of the soffit shade thing. Thank you. And that should line up with the head of the garage door and on, so that there is some horizontal organization to it. That's amendment number 2.
Motion,
Yes.
that work for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 3. That would be I have to find it. It is bedroom window on 3A International. I'm not understanding the interruption of the framing in this window. it's not making logical sense to me from a design standpoint. And I would propose that you've got it looking nice upstairs on International 3A. The three of them nicely centered under that canopy. The one where it is interrupted by the framing, it looks confused. And it's one of the issues of inconsistency that keeps coming up when you kind of look at these things and try to amalgamate them as a neighborhood visually.
Referring to this?
No.
Nope. 3A, the bottom left.
Yes, right. So that would be amendment number 3.
So they would be just like, it would be in threes.
Yeah,
a third
like
panel.
what you've got upstairs,
What you got
second
above,
floor in 3A, just so it looks like
Some
it was
continuity.
designed at the same time.
Would there still be a horizontal
Yeah, sure,
band? Okay.
and
Like
have,
that.
yeah, and you could have glass below, whatever. I mean, these things that we're talking about kind of visually need to be studied. You know, your team knows this. I mean, this, you just can't rush it. You gotta kind of sweat the details.
Hearing what. And I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I just think that, I'm still learning about like what we're allowed to do when it comes to like, can we put them on the floor? Can we not put them?
We have reduced the height of that second floor at least 3 times.
10 feet.
I'm
I'm not one that needs to do that.
We have to be able to air condition that second floor in an appropriate way that our mechanics really likes. Can we do it a different way that I'm not getting anywhere from things? Possibly, but I think what we're presenting here is really the culmination of a 6-month review. And like, I think we're saying this is a really feel comfortable doing. You're the ones making the decision body. If you're gonna make additional things, I think we like this product. We think it looks really good. But I think we're here to get this.
So can I ask a question of the rest of the ARC? Is anyone else having the same issues with the? height on the second
Understand, I
level?
was just gonna ask John, is it, what is bothering you? Is it is it the height, or is it just that it feels very like blocky without, like, it feels very like flat?
Is it just the height or is it?
It's the height, it's the proportion, the windows look kind of not thought out. Okay, and we are looking at 4A International, 4B Contemporary. Okay, so it just, I don't know, on 4B, I suppose, if you wrap that shade eyebrow around it addresses both windows, I don't know, those are the type of things.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying for the top one, right? 4A, that eyebrow, I think, should be on for sure, that top window, that's gonna break it up so it doesn't feel so flat.
Yeah, definitely.
So, no issue.
I don't have an issue.
So that's bullet point number 3. Mr. Whitaker.
That's number 4.
Oh, 4, excuse me.
And how would you word that?
Add eyebrow on second floor of 4A.
Okay.
And that might just break, I don't know, it might break up that right now that we're seeing it so.
Help immensely. Every time a new shading canopy appears, it makes a marked improvement.
Yeah.
In terms of the shadow line, the functionality of the window itself. Yeah, I mean, I would not be stingy with those.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm with you on the proportions of the 2-story.
I mean, I don't mean this flippantly, but I just thought, it's like, well, isn't that obvious? It just kind of looks weird, so it might be fixable, but it's gotta get fixed.
I also understand their standpoint of selling these sort of tiny
Yes.
lots and needing to go up higher to give the grandeur of the house and when you walk inside. So I don't know that lowering the ceiling is the answer, but maybe the facade, breaking it up with something.
Can
Maybe
we
it's the
see it
eyebrow,
in a
yeah.
perspective view? Because I also feel that it's rarely limited to see it in an elevation view. I
Very.
think, and I think in a perspective, I don't really have a problem with the second level height. Because I'm in a perspective view, I'm a lot more, I feel a lot more comfortable when I see it in perspective. But that's, again, I'm one of all of you with different
You know,
opinions.
see that second story looks great. It's got the eyebrow up top, like, I'm happy with that view. And then when you go back to the other ones, that I get what John is saying.
And, you know, and then, you know, for the same token, I am okay with it. So,
There's a huge difference between perspective side.
So the one story everyone is okay with.
John? Just give them time to go for those.
You know, we can go one by one, we can do that.
I guess I would ask. Okay, International 1A, is there a reason that we don't have a canopy over that garage?
You need an eyebrow?
Eyebrow.
Is it just to differentiate between the two?
Mhm,
Okay, yeah.
I would suffer the like kindness of the two to just put that canopy eyebrow.
would it also be, would it extend to the front entrance as well?
Absolutely, I
Okay.
would make it bridge across there so that you gotta kind of get these horizontal lines working together. So I would, you know, a single story, I would put every place that you don't have a eyebrow over the garage door, I would put one.
I guess the concern would be everything very similar. We know by our preferences, we have a different unique to home, variety. And that's been the track record. So that's my only hesitation. I understand what you're saying, but it is gonna provide more of a monolithic streets.
I support your concern and I understand it. But a lot of times, if you get it looking right, even though you are repeating it, it is a better condition than not doing it to create a visual difference.
I'm gonna go against the grain again and say that I prefer 1A without eyebrow going across the garage, because otherwise you might as well just eliminate that facade and just do 1B down the whole street. Because they need to have some variety when you're selling these places from a consumer aspect. When I go into a place looking and I sell real estate in this valley, if everything looked like the same, it might as well be a condo complex rather than a home division. And so it needs some variety, and I'm okay without it having the eyebrow across the garage in 1A.
Right choice.
So what's the consensus on this particular matter?
Well, I don't consent to having that added as a condition.
All right, so moving from the one stories.
Oh,
I'm doing it again.
He's heady with
Speak up,
success.
accept or not, I know.
I want to come back to the question.
Sure you can.
Question on the awkward height on the two-story.
Yeah,
I'm gonna walk down here so you guys can see it more closely. We've got a score line or a shadow line on the upper floor of this unit. And the question that I have is, if this, at this score line, this upper part were to simply step back like 3 inches, so that it
Yes.
actually brings this into a different plane,
yes,
might that help bring down this top-heavy appearance?
possibly, sure, I think that's a good
I mean,
suggestion.
they're not willing
Yes.
to go to a 9-foot or an 8-foot ceiling. They're not willing to
Right.
reduce the truss height. They're not willing to reduce the parapet over the top of the truss.
Yes,
Is that something that you guys could do? In other words, from this score line up, this thing sets in about 3 inches, so that this kind of just brings it in and gives it a little bit more
Dimension.
dimension. Could you do that? Or you think bury the shoreline?
I'm just saying
No,
just
give me
a little subordinate. a
I'm
little
saying,
bit.
could you bring this in like this? I'm exaggerating, but I'm saying about here, so it's. You're trying to just get that upper top to not feel so top heavy.
Can I see what you're doing?
I'm just suggesting that on this score line to try to get the top
Oh.
heaviness down and just bring this thing about 3 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just sketching it like the eyebrow, if it broke the plane, if it just extended past the plane towards the other window.
Kind of like what you
It
did
just-
at one B Contemporary, see how they
Yeah.
did this? Like on one B Contemporary, how you kind of
Oh, yeah.
took that eyebrow kind of across, if you did that on that top
That's just-
level,
To me, it's like
you know,
that,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's just like
Oh,
the cantilever that jets out past the building.
I mean, yeah, and I think it does need study.
But then we probably want to go to the corner rooms there.
I mean, that would be, okay with, I think as well, but I don't know how it sets up with your floor plan.
Maybe the recommendation, instead of us trying to solve it, is to
Yes.
just ask the applicant to find a way to soften that upper section
Yeah.
of the structure.
And we're-
Whether, and let them
Right.
decide what's best, whether it's
I agree with that.
color blocking. I don't really like the recessed idea, just because I think you open up a whole can of worms in terms of the few occasions that it does rain. You've now got a gap between the two structures. I would say, maybe, I love the idea of kind of of the eyebrow or the cantilever roof line jutting out past it, and maybe you can turn the corner, just something to give it a little bit of dimension, because I think
Interest
that's
and
what's, that's what makes this.
I agree with
Good suggestion.
Sounds like we've got concurrence on that. You guys understand the direction? Okay. Anything else? Any other amendments?
I hear none.
Solve the question on the dimension of the running bond. Not steps, running bond.
We probably need to talk about.
Are you okay with what's proposed?
So. Really eyebrow. But we want to find any tile that was smaller than 12 by 24 in the red market. Outside, we couldn't find it because.
Yeah.
Presents.
So you still-
Use this 12 by 24. Hundreds of homes.
People love it.
Buyers.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're leaving the inside of the scene that if you're one and three, buyers love
It shows up a lot better in the photograph than it does in the graphic image. In graphic image, it looks like
Okay
a
with
castle.
With the stone as it's proposed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else then we're looking?
That was
for
number
numbers?
5.
Huh?
That was number 5, wasn't it?
Number 5 is add eyebrow over second
that. We're on
story.
number 6.
Okay, then that was number 6 about this tile.
By 24 tile.
No, it's just saying it's okay.
It's
You're
a,
not making any change to the top.
you did provide the option to go 6 by 24, right? But you said you can't find it? Oh, you have to cut it. Okay,
Leave it alone.
then it's fine.
Leave it alone.
I'll.
I would leave it
But
low.
is that
an
option? Are you gonna provide that as an option to buyer to do 6 by? No.
Okay, we have 6 amendments.
5,
That was not an amendment because you're accepting it as is.
Got it.
check.
Anything else? Mr. Chair, I think you can call the question.
Okay, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor?
I
Bye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Motion
None.
carries.
Motion carries.
Hallelujah.
Right?
Congrats.
It'll be a successful project.
Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, isn't it? though?
Mhm.
With healthy prices. Okay, moving to new business.
We are.
Okay, number 3, new business. Item A, 3, is that parcel, final? 3 partial, final?
Partial.
All right. 3 partial final planned development district applications by SunCal LLC, DBA Serena 386 LLC for approval of common area landscapes within the Serena Park project located north of Verona Road, west of the Whitewater floodplain, and east of North Farrell Drive. Cases
Yeah.
PDD 2025-0003, PDD 2025-0004, and PDD 2025-0005. Parcels 1, 2, and 3 of tract map 39025. Former case 5.1327, PDD number 366, with Mr. Lyon as staff on this.
So, none of you are really familiar, I don't think, with Serena Park, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of background on that. Although you've heard some different PDs in terms of preliminaries and finals, I'm going to explain that your set of criteria that you consider when approving a final PD are different than the findings and criteria that you typically are applying to a typical architectural review. 9405, the architectural review section of zoning code, has 13 findings that you must affirmatively make. When you're dealing with a final PD, the finding that you're making is, does this final PD substantially conform to the preliminary PD that was approved by City Council? Okay, so let's begin and we'll go through this. So what and where is Serena Park? Serena Park is a 386 planned development district comprised of 156 gross acres on land that was the Palm Springs Country Club Golf Course. It's located northeast of the curve at Farrell Drive and Rapid Club Road, which you see at the lower part of that aerial photo image. And the project is basically comprised of two triangular land sections, as you see there on the right. So Serena Park has gone through a lot of action. It's been in the city for a long, long time. But the primary action here was in September of 2016, the City Council approved the preliminary plan development district, including public and private streets, common open space, including a maintained park that will be open to the public, and including a connector to the CV link, which runs in the top of the adjacent levee. In March of 2019, the City Council approved a development agreement in which the amenities of the park were defined. In August of 2024, the SunCal Corporation, doing business as Serena 386, purchased the project. In July of 2025, the council approved tract map 39025, subdividing the Serena project into 7 large lots for purchase by individual merchant builders, each of whom will build out a portion of Serena Park, just like you recently saw with Ascena, and you've seen also with Miralon. SunCal desires to install the common area landscapes now and get it in before the heat of the summer to enhance the project's appearance to help facilitate the sale of these large 7 parcels. So this is the Serena Park tract map 36691, which was approved in 2016. The other map number that's hidden a little bit there by the black square is the map that divided it into 7 parcels. So the colored map that you see here on the left is the 7 parcels that the tract map 39025 broke the whole project into. So what we're looking at are the orange parcel, the purple parcel, and the pink parcel, which represent parcels 1, 2, and 3 of the whole Serena Park project. The image that you see on the right is, I want you to understand that this is a private development. The streets are all private except what we call the Spine Road, which is San Rafael, which is running in that orange line that you see on the image to the right. The Spine Road will be deeded over to the city as a public street. So the task before you, the Plan Development District Code says the final development plan shall be substantially in conformance with the approved preliminary plan and shall incorporate all modifications and conditions of approval imposed by the City Council. So the ARC shall evaluate the 3 parcels before you, the landscape plan only, and determine whether or not they are in substantial conformance with the preliminary PD. Here's the challenge. The preliminary PD landscape plan, which is done in 2015, which is the one on the left, is slightly different from the preliminary PD that was approved in 2016, which is the one on the right. Generally speaking, it lays out more or less the same, but what you'll see is the primary difference is that the spine road that connected between the upper part of the project to Verona Road at the southeast was moved from the edge over to the center. That's the primary difference. But in that little movement, a lot of the open space jiggled around into different configurations. The lower green area that you see on the both images to the lower right, that's where the proposed park is. And the park again is a private park that will be maintained by the HOA, but open to the public. So here's the solution to the problem of those disparate site plans. We're recommending that you evaluate the preliminary PD landscape plan and the 3 partial final PD landscape plans for the common areas for substantial conformance in terms of the general characteristics of the common area landscape design, not the specific plant placement or the specific quantities of trees, plants, or species. We simply can't look at these two from preliminary to final and reconcile these exactly. It's just not possible at this point. So my suggestion is, have they accomplished the general concept, if you will, of what this early landscape was trying to achieve for the common areas? So I want to first focus on this community park. The community park project that was in the preliminary PD is the image that you see more or less on the right, on the left side in this image. What's happened? The Desert Water Agency has come along saying they require about 3/4 of an acre for a well site. That's the brown area that you see in the rectangle at the top of the center image. So they took away a large piece of the northerly part of the community park. The second thing that happened is the Riverside County Flood Control District, which owns the levee and owns an easement on the project's side of the levee, have requested that there be no improvements, no landscaping, no parks, and no ramp that will get the public that are wanting to get up to the CV link to be added. So they basically are saying, keep your hands off the levee and keep your hands off the easement. That has caused problems because the original PD landscape plan had a dog park on that easement, and they had some landscape areas and some play areas. So they have had to juggle that stuff around in other open spaces within the Serena Park project. The other thing that we've had a discussion at staff level with the applicant on the earlier scheme, as you see, there's kind of a, I'm going to point to it, I can't see that.
Yeah.
This thing here,
Yes.
that was a proposed practice golf range. And the applicant can speak to this a little bit, but they have found that this kind of thing has been imposed as a condition of approval on other projects, and the thing never gets used. But there's another aspect of this that at the staff level, we also support not putting it in, and that is safety. You've got basically 3 tees that are all focusing toward that same green. And if you had 3 individuals all whacking golf balls trying to get onto that green, there is, to say the very least, a safety problem there for a park that's open to the public. So we believe, and they have stated, and we believe that the practice golf is not practical, and we've not required them to include it in this final PD. The other thing that we discussed with them is there was a request for a demonstration garden. Now, the demonstration garden was to help understand what we're talking about as we move into, drought after drought, on what kind of landscape material works well here in the desert through these droughts. And what we came to the conclusion of is the landscape itself, as you look at what's been proposed here, and I'll look to Charles to give us some input on this, we believe it provides a very adequate and complete demonstration desert scape. And that what we put in the conditions of approval is that we find an area where there is a large enough diversity in the plant materials in any part of this project, and put up small plaques that can explain what each plant type is, and what its characteristics are. So that somebody who wanted to go in here and understand better what type of desertscape materials they could put in their complex if they're dealing with oceans of turf, this project would still provide that kind of information. So this is the preliminary, the community park as described in the 2016 approvals. And as you see there, it says the development agreement shall set forth. So this portion here on the left helps you understand where things have moved. So it started off with 2 tennis courts. The applicant has offered to change those to pickleball courts because of the popularity of pickleball. So they're able to get 3 courts in where there previously were only 2. The 2 turf areas and 2 play stations will be relocated to parcel 4, which we'll show you shortly. The restrooms will be relocated to near the courts. The 8 parking spaces that were previously shown in the cul-de-sac on Veronica Drive will be handled in terms of parallel parking along the curb, just adjacent to that DWA well site. And then the large and small dog parks will be relocated to parcel 4. So as noted in the yellow there, all park amenities noted in the DA have been accommodated with the exception of the practice golf and the demonstration garden. So our conclusion is the applicant has demonstrated a genuine commitment to the design of partial final development plans for the common landscape for these 3 parcels to not only create designs that are in substantial conformance with the preliminary PD, but also accomplish the following. They've improved upon the preliminary landscape design with trees that are better suited for the site's windy conditions. They've accommodated the unanticipated changes caused by the DWA and the Riverside County flood control. They've incorporated as many as possible of the park amenities. They've maximized the number of shade trees, which more closely aligns with the design standards that the city has put forth in the Technical Assistance Guide for Drought-Tolerant Landscapes. So the findings that we have found and that we believe you can make affirmatively are that we find that the 3 partial final PDs for landscape in the common areas of parcels 1, 2, and 3 are in substantial conformance with the preliminary landscape plan for the PD 366 dated 2015. Our recommendation is that you approve these cases, all 3 of them, subject to the conditions of approval that are in Exhibit A in your staff report, and that are also subject to the landscape conditions of approval that are in Exhibit B. Now, we don't normally do Exhibits A and B when we're talking about conditions of approval, but these conditions have been modified and modified and modified as we go through each one of the subsequent hearings. And so to keep this simple and not have everybody pouring through 34 pages of conditions, I pulled out those conditions of approval that are relevant to this particular set of applications, put them in Exhibit B, which is in your staff. That concludes my presentation. The applicants are here in the audience to answer any questions, and I'm here to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Do we have questions for staff?
I have one question. The DWA request, is that well servicing the entire community?
Now, as I understand it, it is a site reserved for future well sites. You know, their network of wells and reservoirs feed the community. So I don't know more detail about it than that, but I believe that it will be to feed the greater Palm Springs area as this north end continues to build out.
Pretty nice.
So, I have a couple. We are allowed to make comment on types of plants, arrangement of plants, the spacing of plants, the quantity of plants, or are we not?
You may, but I would ask that you make them in the context of good design.
Okay.
Good landscape design. And we'll probably then have some dialogue back and forth with the applicant around whatever recommendations you have that they can accommodate that. Thus far, as I've been working with them for a few months on this project, they've been fairly reasonable and accommodating things, and I've been impressed by them.
I noticed that there is a hydro seed on this project.
And I'm just curious, is that a standard in the city for this type of a detention basin to hydroseed?
No. This came about as a recommendation from staff because the set of landscape design for that park area was a very scattered, you've heard me call it grandma's garden approach. And I was looking for some way to organize that landscape better. So what is it? Just a scattering of disparate plants. I asked that they bring the plantings around the edges of the pathways to better demarcate those pathways within what is otherwise a pretty open desert scape. But that was the reason for the suggested hydroseeding. Their landscape architect is here and pushed back with me on that and saying that there may be some difficulty getting those things to propagate. And we don't know what we would end up with. So I'll let you and he have a discussion around that, but know that that suggestion on hydroseeding was a staff recommendation. That may not be the best solution, but I did it to try to get to a better overall landscape design.
Yeah, it opens a can of worms, which is probably why your landscape architect was uncomfortable with it. But like, how would we determine the success of that? You know, like, is there, if we said, okay, the hydroseed is good to go, is there any sort of metric? Because if you install the plant material, does the city go audit and say, hey, you know, you had X number of plants on the plan and you only installed 50 versus 2,000? The same thing could happen with the hydroseed. You could hydroseed the whole thing and get zero propagation. So, I mean, or you have this area next to a very windy seed blown, right?
Yes.
It's very unpredictable. And I know, having dealt with hydroseed on my own, you need a PhD after your name to identify what's coming up.
Yeah.
I
Well,
had to do that, as a matter of fact.
And those are valid comments. And,
Yeah.
you know, I could jokingly say, had we done the hydroseeding 3 weeks ago, it would have all been propagating right now. Right?
Yeah.
It'd been
Yeah.
like, I'd like you to have that conversation with their landscape architect. And, you know, I'm not holding tightly to that. If there's a better way of doing it, this was simply a way for us at a staff level to figure out how to get this landscape in this park to be a little bit more organized.
Yeah, which I totally appreciate. Is it out of line for me to ask for a presentation from the landscape architect to just kind of run through their thoughts behind how they approach this project?
That would be fine when it comes time to ask questions of them. The other
Okay.
part of what their presentation can be is to present aspects that I've not covered adequately.
Mr. Lyon, I have a question. The formerly golf course practice area, what did that become?
DWA well site.
Oh,
Any other questions of staff?
By the way, all of the large paper copies you see in front of you are blow-ups of primary open space areas. Both parcels 1, parcel 4, and parcel 6. My asterisk to that statement is, please understand that you're only approving parcels 1, 2, and 3 today. But what they're doing is showing you where they were able to accommodate some of the park amenities that would no longer work once we lost some of these other options at the primary park area, parcel 1. So you're not looking at parcels 4 and 6. But when they come in, whomever comes in, whether it's SunCal or the individual merchant builders who buy these parcels, it will be those basic conceptual plans that you see. Parcel 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is our applicant here ready to present? Please come and sit with us and start out by giving us your.
I'm Nick Pappas with SunCal. Fernando Ducio with San Carlos. Bob Bob, the landscape architect, Dale Newman. He drove a long way.
First of all, do you guys want to make any presentation, any aspect of the project that I did not cover adequately in your opinion?
No, actually, did a good job, in the background. I just want to reiterate that we were faced, we acquired. And, a lot of work. Prior owners. Very. Titles. With that. Our development. So. What would be required the property? Those materials. Fortunately, we told you in the very first slide. Relative to park and landscape. Configuration. So the tentative map had evolved. Time preliminary. Landscape focus. And when the intended track map. So. My effort at the very beginning had to approach these issues. Let me just say that Bob was the landscape architect. One of the reasons why we. Right. So. What we closest attention had to kind of ignore realize really pay attention to facilities in subsequent to us acquiring property amendment to the common agreement expired. Ownership and the city. Those same provisions. So that's how we approach. I want to say that I really have appreciated any of the things that Ken has asked us to do. I know it's. I've been home building. So 20 years ago.
It's hard to believe, yeah.
And so, Ken has been very, very helpful. Worked hard in our exchange on Christmas.
Dedication.
And I'm very grateful. Really make it, in my view.
Yes.
I think this satisfies full intent. I'll just tell you offhand, I'm indifferent to hydroseed. You want plants, I give you plants. Actually, I like the idea of hydroseed. I've used hydroseed because it populates and makes for good cover. But you raise a good point about it not getting complicated. But I'm indifferent to that, so I'll let you guys up on that. Another comment about the golf thing.
first career I was worked for Bozanic 25 years. During that time, I designed boats and salt, Four Seasons community, all across California. And in the first two that I did, well, you gotta have some golf. So I went through all the trouble of designing a key spot where 3 or 4, practice keys would be in this net that catch them and all that kind of stuff. Well, come to find out, only about 12% ever play golf. Number one. Number two, they never used it. And greens are very difficult to maintain. Utilities can build the thing eventually, and they can't do it right. So that whole area just filled foul. It was totally waste. And that happened on 2 of those. So Bob brought it up. I said, Bob, we're not doing it. Not in this tiny little spot here. And I'm not gonna knock golf balls off into the wash and the flood control.
Especially the community with a boatload of golf courses.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have some questions, and since this is predominantly landscape. Please. You have very interesting site. Got Palm Springs on one side, the other. Really interesting. And I am trying to get a handle on how your strategy seems to not blend those things together. I'm just wondering if I'm missing somehow, or if it's not there on purpose. And if it's not there on purpose, that seems a little disappointing to me. So yeah. Bring more of that native landscape in and start a dialogue with the more. Those, because I think you need to really focus, as you've done, the more ornamental horticulture in all of that. I see, I think that's there. I do have some comment on that, but I'm not seeing that. Cool, and they are around and they will come in and you have an opportunity there. Well, well, yeah.
Hey, okay, I went drinking out of my pool just 5 days ago,
Yeah. There.
and I'm in the middle of Palm Springs.
So I guess I was just looking. creating sense of place here, given that this site probably deserves that level of attention. How are you doing that with your current design?
Well, start with the project.
Yeah. Sure.
Mhm.
Down, these little pretty belts, not really that wide.
Yeah.
How important it goes down over the road down the center. But as far as the project itself, the elements for your ordinance person, that's why we need track ordinance. Elements that are really leftover spaces, organize them so that were functionable, still water conservation, and shade. And the inside of more shade, more stand, I appreciate that. Go in, water fire plant, and then we got a few things. Sidewalks, roof rack. And a nice tree. Happy for it, but it only be really on the side. Residences. So I don't think there's a dysfunction. That palette and ground tower and area. It's gonna do what you're talking about. And we're gonna. What we did some small areas that trees around them and this size paths. Slope.
Right.
You got a big rain, it's made of water. Can these plants survive? Can they propagate? And they said that we're gonna put that out more. They said, well, not float and will propagate. Right, still got pollen, grasses, and they're going to pop up. And we have. We got some students. And it's dry. So I have 500 plants here. And we come in, try to find, looks like less, but try to line 3 plants around the path. Increase our quantity. The whole thought was take all these out of the middle, put them in trees, more shade along the street. Quantity is not increased. The trade-off was to put these large bare areas and want to see some large voids, not that it's going to be a big barren area. We are emphasizing grooves and large growth, and we've done that throughout. It's color and texture, vertical plant. Evergreen, still, we're transplanting quite a few of the palms, even though we've got 172. Let's go. Anything water. Water. They want to use them out of the ground.
setting up a tree farm that when we're out installing this fence, it needs to identify where.
That's. Working for it. So for the mining, they're not all over the place, they're mining the main, street, and we run out, we get the same, so it doesn't look like, oh, long. So there is uniform. Balance. I think the plan is gonna be spectacular, not the. Drive to the city, don't see the city, don't see the staff. Place. But we're blending in, it's part of it. We think it's going to.
Comment about open space. This is one, look at those areas. Cul-de-sac and both sides. Up. Push it. Rear lot. Open face, open fence. You create a DG path at the top of each of those along. Yeah. How many people do you know that drive down? Lots of times. And so, you know, my vision of that, if I'm gonna live in my house. I've done, got a gate. Space, if I go around it, look out there, see if I got a gate out. And I can put my dog on a leash, walking down, I can circle around and walking down this. All in parking spaces. That's probably. That was the direction. Bob and then, oh, he did his thing, put power in.
Yeah, no, I get that. I can see the circulation there, which I appreciate. I guess what I'm hearing is it was a deliberate move to not bring that wash type feel into the project at all.
Ornamental. That's very near. Still use the I just we're gonna do select this plan. Same time. I think we're not. All this. Everybody's pleased. Happy. Results. But.
Some sort of technical things. I see in the conditions that there's requirements for bark mulch around.
You have it cheap.
Yeah.
So except in the where the hydro seed,
Yeah.
that's a different animal, right? And let's say where the rest of the land.
Yes, we had, gravel.
The plants up here and that central well.
stream beds, and boulders and big trees and try to have some space, so to speak, with amenities that we're doing. Less area of the park, early to see park along the streets for the spreading plan. So it's going to cover the park. So we have a coverage concern down the road where it's got to do that. It's
Just
just
to kind of bring some clarity where this comes from. With these projects, we've been trying to emphasize park multiple primarily. Shrubs is an extra bonus. Right? Also, we don't require mulch everywhere. We're looking to have mulch in these areas. It's a very limited part of this. This has been a project, my experience here, projects, had the details, those is there. Holes around these plants to help retain water. And then the mulch. It's not just baking under a layer of ground. From a city perspective, we don't care one way or the other whether the whole thing becomes park. It becomes to give them different guidance. That's fine. But I think what we were trying to make sure was that when we have materials that we're not surrounding.
Fair enough. I think I like it, introducing bark because it retains the moisture. But when I look at the planting plan, it looks to me as though everything is very evenly spaced. Are a bunch of plants in bark and not a sea of plant material, just based on kind of what I'm.
I took this square right here and ran 10 different flags. And they start to grow out, lose the bark, because your eye level goes down, and you won't appreciate what's in front of you, just like walking on your path. So it's really, if it were all the same, 10 feet on center, that'd be different. But if it's running through the mass, you see the masses running through there, they're going to spread out and they're going to start to touch each other sometimes and create mass yellows with the lantana or really might be pink. You're going to start to pick up those color textures. But that's going to be spread out. But the mulch is temporary, really.
Yeah, I am seeing this layout looks to me to be really consistent on center space.
But different plants.
Different plants, sure, but still, I'm concerned about, and especially like I look at the size of the plant. It's a lot of 1 gallon. It's mulch, right? How deep is a 1 gallon can? How are you going to get these plants to root in when half of the root ball is sitting in mulch?
It's a state requirement to do 3 inches. We're doing it all over California and they grow. So
I know, but that is,
keep them about 1 inch at the soil and 1 inch of mulch and 2 inch bud. And don't hit up against the base, and it works. And it's a requirement.
I know. I mean, I deal with
That's how
this
it's
as
done.
well, but this
That's how
is
it's
a
done.
very hot, very unusual. And to keep those things moist so that they don't dry out instantly upon planting, I'm concerned about that. So I am probably able to be convinced about certain number of these things if there was a higher percentage of 5 gallon plants being put in.
They are proportionate. It's not 50-50, probably 30-70. And where those are, we do have point-to-point irrigation.
Yeah,
Each
I
one.
guess I'm not seeing that in the plant legend. So if I'm missing it, my apologies, but I'm just not seeing that there. I mean, I'm seeing the majority of plants being called out as 1 gallon. So I have a massive concern about that because I think there's potential for some pretty significant plant failure given those two different parameters. I'm concerned about the appearance of bark. I'm also concerned about, okay, the hydroseed is going to be the fiber mulch, right? So when that either germinates or doesn't germinate, we're looking at the fiber mulch until the wind blows it away. And then we just have sand or bare earth or whatever, or we're lucky,
Yes.
maybe some perennials get in there. I mean, I prefer when you have plants in natural groupings with space between. I hate the onesie twosie, even center spacing, especially out here. I just don't feel like that looks right. It doesn't feel right. So I would look at it like use the DG as another tool in your arsenal, put the plants, create groupings, allow the DG to flow in between them. Then you can isolate where your bark is to just where the plants are. You can get them a little closer together where I think they will probably do better to fill in where the bark is. And then you're looking at DG as a
With
sort
no
of
plants.
yeah, let there be some space between them. Use it like we used to use turf back in the day, right? Where it's another material in your arsenal.
And just to kind of also tie in with this conversation. While this project does not have a rigid application of our technical assistance guides, because ultimately it is a PD. So as I say, we're working with a different set of criteria.
Okay.
But in our technical assistance guide, we say you must have 50% live ground cover at plant maturity. Well, that means we have 50% open space at plant maturity. And we are totally okay with that when it comes to these turf projects. And so when I reference the technical assistance guide here and this discussion that we're having, if there is a common ground that we can find here, maybe through the way that you notate the landscape drawings, where you begin to pull these plants into clusters as he's talking about and open up some meandering open space. Would that, and to throw you, would something like that put some common, sort of a compromise between these two discussions?
Certainly.
And would it be something that's practical to do?
It just is a matter of how much can we take out and how much do we modify. The irrigation's basically done. Pressure in this whole system is how the whole projects are going to be on pump system, but the point being, if we go in and take and move, it's an irrigation design and it's back to extra line. I don't want to keep doing that, but if we need to do some areas, we can look at the areas that are most visible and work with them. Not all over the place. Maybe, maybe I can sketch a few areas and send them on.
Would that work, Charles?
I think so. I mean, I'm mostly thinking about, let's say, the streetscape. I think that, the entry, the pickleball.
areas.
Yeah, like these deserve more plants, more intensity, more emphasis.
And that's how they are now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's, they're good. I think with the streetscape, how I'm seeing it is I'm just worried, as Ken says, if you have 50% coverage and 50% open, that's a lot of bark. That's a pretty foreign look.
I think we have better than 50%.
Yeah, from when I looked at it, I felt there was more than 50% as well. I found, in general, Charles, I found this project was more densely planted than almost everything that I've seen in a long, long time.
I'm seeing that too. I'm just concerned about the sizes.
Okay, so I think what we could do is I can go in and diminish some of the areas and maybe I'll take a quantity off of the comparison of the ones and fives. But just because you see them on the list there doesn't necessarily mean It's the way they're arranged, right?
Yeah,
And where
yeah,
they're
no, I
at,
mean,
so-
I spent a
Yeah.
long time looking at these
Yeah.
plans, there's a lot of sheets. of metal.
Yes. I know. And one
Yeah, I
change
mean,
is
that's
a
how I
domino
spent my
effect.
Christmas Eve too.
Yes, I can contest we were working to the fifth hour.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and listen, you know, you guys have a great reputation, plans are easy to read, all of that stuff is much appreciated, because, you know, we don't always see that, but, shrub
With
size?
respect to your concern about park,
Yeah.
keep in mind that all of this, park, open space areas, right of way landscaping along San Rafael, Spine Road, all maintained by the association. So, to the extent that you have a dry spell and wind blows, knocks around some bark, association, not like, you know, not like when it blows the bark away, then it's gone for good.
Yeah.
You know, when the wind stops blowing, will be required. Sweep up debris and mess and back in. We own the remaining portion of the scene. They're doing that right now.
We sell the lots.
It's all incestuous.
They're everywhere. Say, well, you could do this. They're everywhere.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is.
Good move, really good move.
Replace that bark.
Let me,
I think the association's gonna replace the bark with DG in short order.
here's a question, and you guys can shut me down here, it makes no sense. When we normally do the conditions on these turf projects, we'll require the bark to be at least 4 to 6 feet away from the trunk of the tree. And we normally will say, give us bark mulch within what I call the water bowl around the plant. Is there a reasonable compromise so we can move this thing forward tonight?
Yeah.
Where perhaps we say, around all trees, the bark mulch shall be at out to a 5-foot distance or something around the trunk of every tree. And that around every plant, there is bark mulch in the area that is comprising the water bowl. Is that not moving? Yeah, or pea gravel? I'm trying to not think of DG because of the wind.
Donuts all over the place and the wind blows it and it's a mess.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's not a
so
good.
that's not a good idea. Okay.
No, I think that clustering the plants and providing mulch in those beds is
Yeah.
probably a.
We could do that in the tree. And the rest of them have them already. Matter of fact, one thing that you didn't get to see the irrigation, you know, again already, is that he's learned that when you have this long area of turf and they eliminated the turf and you have a tree there, no longer gets water, so they die, right? They've diminished. And so long term, we have this point to point watering the trees with bubblers, and out to another 15 feet, we put in rings of drip for every
Right.
tree for the future, which is not really thought by everybody else, but that's what we've done, and it's built in. So putting those rings in mulch in the turf can be done easily, and it'll work.
This is part of, we've
What-
also required this, when we've done turf projects.
modification,
We
you know,
put in,
renovation.
we've asked them to put in 2 deep well bubblers on either side of the root ball, and then the concentric rings out to.
Okay, they're all the help they can get,
Yeah.
which kind of leads me to what could be my last point. Everybody's getting sick here talking about. They're just only 24-inch. There's very few 36-inch box trees. 24-inch box trees, slow growing trees at that. How long is it going to be before I'm sitting in the shade of a 24-inch box carob wood tree or carob tree? You know, it would be better, like, forget everything I said about the shrubs. If you went to a percentage of, let's say, 10% 60-inch box. Yeah, I wrote it down actually, so I'm not guessing, let me just say. 10% 60s, 30% 48, 50% 36s, and 10% 24s. So you get there faster, you get this shade that the city needs faster. You know, that is
I
probably
can't
the
disagree
most
with you
important
there.
thing.
I just look at this project and it's huge.
Sure.
And it's not a little small infill of 10 lots.
Yeah.
Every time we put something down, the dollars just escalate. And it's a big project. So I really have to leave that back to you. Try to pencil it out.
60-inch boxes, 48-inch boxes, all about it. Done it my whole life. I would say that, well, it's a massive cost right now to pull the 180 existing palms out of the ground, keep them healthy and mature, and place them back carefully in these great locations. And I don't know where we would put a 60-inch box. I don't know where we would go on the right of way landscape. Maybe there's a place for a couple of them down in the park around the pickleball courts. People are going to gather. There's room for them. There's room around the pickleballs where the barbecues are. Right. There's got room for 60s. That's natural. All those 60-inch trees. Yes. When you first driving in, that's your window. By absolutely would create a really beautiful window by creating these monument trees. Well, plants. Those are the areas where you might. What species would these be? Well, they'd be. I mean, you take your pick.
Yeah.
Evergreen.
Mostly.
Yeah. So here's what I would offer up. Forestry.
Remember, he's only one of a large group.
That's true. I'm the only one. I've been hogging all the oxygen. We all haven't had a chance to talk. Next. Maybe we should wait. I'll give you 2 60s in the park by the pickleball courts and 2 48s somewhere in the same area. And I'll give you 160 up in -4 if you look at your -4 park plan. And off the van. Dog park. But there's a play area, 60s there, and a couple of 48s somewhere. So where did I just come?
3 60s.
$100,000.
I don't think it's that much, but
And what did I do, 4 48s?
Yeah.
And on the 48s, also monument them, by raising the grade up. Isolate the planting and raise them to make it look more monumental, if you will. Yeah, we've done that a lot. Sure. And that kind of brings me to a question. The Yucca rostrata, there's like 5 of them spread out this.
Yeah,
like,
they were just
what's
little accent that, I mean, we've done masses everywhere, but sometimes those little accents really, they help the landscape just in general aesthetics. Nothing
I was
special.
trying to figure out a rhyme or reason for those things. I couldn't figure it out.
Well, the same
It's like
thing. We
the
had-
guacamole
We had
at
barrel
Chipotle or
access
something.
on the Paul practice, but, we're saying, you don't really blend into the landscape, but, you know.
Well, that's the umbrella in Pina Colada. Yeah,
Only one.
It's like- they're great. And there should
You want
be
more?
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that you're only seeing 3 in those. We have more in the other. There's not just 5 in those.
They're just so sparingly
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
And expensive.
It struck me as,
Focal area.
I thought maybe I was missing something there.
We had a bunch more in the bottom. So put them out.
Is this the time I can ask, are there any further questions of the applicant?
No.
I don't know anything about plants, so I'm sticking with whatever he says.
Are there other comments?
And if not, we'll close it for discussion among the commission.
Wrap up the offer that Nick made with respect to bringing in some larger factories. That work for you guys?
Great. I am skeptical whether those, I mean, they will definitely see where they are. But they were great. It just all fits that one. Trees.
We have 108 palm trees that are magnificent. It's not gonna look strange.
We also introduced, like that, the on every corner, all the way through, and then at the end, so it has some height variation. The existing campus will backdrop, it's not bigger.
I appreciate it.
That's awesome. You know, this project, if it had a few moments like that where it feels like you're working around existing landscape, even though you're not, feels like that tree's been there. That's kind of always a nice look. So.
So it sounds like there's general concurrence.
Yes.
Okay. Well, who remembers it was,
Oh, yeah, you had,
Sounds like you had three or
360s.
four,
Two at the monument and one over by the barbecue/park area, and maybe 448.
448. Two.
I'm comfortable with their commitment to increase the
A
size.
deal has been struck.
Yes.
All right, so gentlemen, go back and sit down. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wrap this up.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Maybe we could just go right down and get people's comments on this and then wrap it with a motion. Anna, would you like to start?
Good.
I don't know about plants.
I'll just say I really appreciate the discussion and the dialogue that was occurring, and thank you, but I don't have any comments.
Jackie.
I'm personally a huge fan of mulch. I don't live in the desert. As you know, my house has black mulch all around it, so I will attest to that. But I live in the south end, but I think if used sparingly, it's absolutely beautiful. It's really stunning and it's very healthy.
I have a couple things to say. This is a very interesting project. You have, it's a small area, but you have packed the box. And I think that it's interesting that in the time lag from when it started in the original map and where you are now, gave you an opportunity to rethink some of the usages. And, you know, the switch to pickleball courts, et cetera, and, you know, as opposed to tennis courts, whatever. All of that is very good. And I think it was a great staff report and the graphics are good. This was a fire hose of information and somehow you all have simplified it to help us kind of plow through it and feel comfortable with the decision. And with that, would anybody like to make a motion?
And we are, a part of our motion is to, and that this final plan is consistent with the preliminary plan.
That is
Right?
the finding.
Yes.
So that's a finding we're
Yes.
making, substantial in conformance, yeah.
That's what you finding, and recommending approval, with conditions. Sounds like you kind of memorialize this condition around the
Right.
sizing of trees. And around some of the bunching together of some of the plant materials, so we've got a space at the end, is that correct?
Okay,
Is anything else?
No.
Conditions you're opposing?
I heard none others that would be appropriate for that. Okay.
So moved.
Charles, would you like to give us our motion? Repeat after Ken.
We're gonna make a motion. Based on the finding, staff, the project is substantial conformance. With the conditions of approval that you impose regarding size of the trees and clustering of the trees.
Just say.
No, just say it.
That works for you,
Just say
then.
so moved. I thought I wrapped it up 5 minutes ago with so moved.
Me too, what the hell?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, you can't wait to see us again, I know.
I'm sure we'll.
Each of the seven
Kind of bad. It's kind of bad.
require probably the- for approval. Today's PRC because of the- Yeah, but those applications. Yeah, I believe the reason that we did this on these first three projects, we don't want to jump on this. That's gonna help them. I just think you guys are all clear. We're not building any houses.
We understand.
So,
Correct. Yeah, we get it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, understand. No, thank you for the clarification.
Good night.
Okay, any other comments from the board, from the committee?
None that I know of, and no,
Do you have any questions or comments?
no. Should I
I
look
do.
for, oh, go ahead.
I officially retired today.
oh my gosh,
Oh.
congratulations.
I do plan on traveling more, so I'm not sure of my availability. I'm willing to stay on as long as you'd like me to, but I will generally be gone from May to September every year.
Okay,
So if that's a problem, I'm happy to resign.
let's have a conversation offline with the planning director. And we'll get more of the details on it and figure out how best to.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So your time that you're going to be away is from?
Generally from May to September.
Really?
I know.
Think of what you'll
Be on the
miss.
Oregon coast.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a
Adjourn.
motion to
Adjourn from the agenda.
We're agenda adjourned.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No. Adjourned.
Thank you all for
Thanks,
indulging.
everybody.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
That was very.